Joining us now, Mark Thiessen, who's a Fox News contributor and former chief presidential speechwriter for George W. Bush. Mark, good to see you tonight.
Good to see you, Megan.
Does it mean anything? Does it mean something to have the White House flags, to have the order come that the flag should be flown at half-staff?
Oh, absolutely it does. And look, there are lots of things about the presidency that are really hard. This is not one of them, okay? This is, 5 days the president has not referred to what happened in Chattanooga as a terrorist attack. 5 days he hasn't lowered the flag. He bathed the White House in rainbow lights to celebrate the Supreme Court decision on same-sex marriage. But he can't lower the flag for 4 Marines and a U.S. Navy petty officer who were killed in a terrorist attack on our soil.
He instead went and played golf and went to a fundraiser over the weekend. He's being criticized for that, Mark. However, you know, having worked for a president, they need R&R. They need to burn off steam.
Yeah, I know they need to R&R, but President Bush gave up golf during the course of the war on terror because he didn't think the optics of a president going out and enjoying himself on the golf course where Americans were being killed in Iraq and Afghanistan was the right one to have. And certainly the optics of the President of the United States going to a fundraiser, going to a Broadway show, going and playing golf as he did this weekend, literally 2 days after a terrorist attack on our soil, are not very good either.
He spent some time with his daughters. They need family time as well.
Yeah, well, you know what? There's some Marines and a new U.S. Navy petty officer, families in Tennessee whose dads are not going to be able to take them to a show anytime soon. So people just lost their dads, people just lost their husbands, people just lost brothers and sisters. So he's the commander-in-chief. He's their commander-in-chief. These people died wearing the uniform of the United States under attack from a Muslim extremist with an AK-47 who attacked not one but 2 military installations in the United States. That calls for the commander-in-chief to do something.
Why? Why do you think the president's made the decision thus far to say very little about this other than lone gunmen and this is heartbreaking?
I don't think that this is what he wakes up in the morning to do, to be the commander-in-chief, to wage a war on terror. I think that he came into office to end George Bush's wars, not to win them. And so he's uncomfortable with the role of commander-in-chief and the role of fighting this war. And so he wants these wars to end. He doesn't want to be the one who's leading the country in a time of war. But the fact is, war is being visited on us. It was just visited on us in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and it could be visited on us again. And he has to lead whether he wants to or not.
He's getting hit for not calling this terrorism. The U.S. attorney said we're investigating this as an act of terrorism, but the president wouldn't go that far. His defenders say he's the commander-in-chief. He should be more judicious in his tone before we know exactly what happened. He shouldn't get out ahead of his skis.
Yeah, that might be fair if it wasn't for the fact that there's a pattern here. So, he called the Christmas Day bomber an isolated extremist. He referred to Benghazi as being over an internet video. The attack on a Paris kosher deli by Muslim extremists was a random act of violence. So there's a pattern here of downplaying terror. And again, I think it's because this is not what he wants to get up in the morning and do. This is not what he came to office to do. He didn't come to office to be the commander-in-chief at a time of war. He came to end war and transform America. And so he's consistently downplaying the terrorism. And the problem is when you downplay terrorism, you can't defeat terrorism. And when you don't defeat terrorism, then terrorism comes and visits our shores.
The White House today said wait until tomorrow. He's going to make remarks at the VFW. And so we'll wait to hear when he speaks to veterans tomorrow what he says. But what we are being told is there'll be some remarks. We can't get into all of them because they've been embargoed, but he's going to address, among other things, predatory lending. We hope he addresses predatory jihadists. But in the meantime, Mark, the White House stands on this. President Obama came out and made clear, this is a quote, we take all shootings very seriously.
Yeah, first of all, tell that to the family of Kate Steinle. They still haven't heard from President Obama, and he still hasn't condemned that attack where a criminal alien killed a woman in broad daylight in San Francisco. So I don't think they take all shootings seriously. But second of all, this isn't just another shooting. This was a terrorist attack on our country. ISIS published a hit list of American service members. They called on their members to attack American service members here at home, and all of a sudden it happens. This is an attack on the country, and he has to respond to it. He can't simply ignore it, and he's got no choice. If he goes in front of those veterans tomorrow and doesn't address this, he's going to get a very unpleasant reception.
Mark, thank you.
Thanks, Megan.